This is my editorial political commentary on why I'm trying to rally the burn your bus people, the independents, and everyone else that watches it to drop Hillary, why I think Hillary Clinton's not good for the country. And the reasons not to vote for. It's like Joe Walsh, right now, the country, I feel like the economy we had in 1958, and the standard of living is a lot higher for the working class, and I think in the whole country, I think had more money in it from the top to the bottom. Or at least it had an economic system that generated wealth better than the one now that's full of corruption. And Joe Walsh said that the system's broken and we all got our head in the sand. Well, I agree with him, and people don't. It's like when you take your car to the local department store and have work on it and it doesn't work, they don't fix it, and then you take it to the mom and pop mechanic that's real fair on prices and always tells you exactly what's wrong with it. He knows, he hears a noise, knows exactly what it is, he fixes it right, you don't have to take it back. In the country's the same thing. It's like a car that isn't running right, and I'm thinking, why don't we forget about all the mud on their campaign like Trump, and let's worry about whether they know how to fix things. And so Trump's the one to vote for, Trump or Jill Stein. I think that burning your bus people ought to vote for either Trump or Jill Stein's the better one of the two, but she's not very viable. But I wish she was. But anyway, let's see. There's several reasons why I think Hillary Clinton is the wrong candidate, and it all has to do basically with a comment she made, an exchange in one of the debates where Bernie Sanders was talking about increasing the amount of people in the healthcare system, Obamacare, to expand it, include everybody. And Hillary came back and said Sanders' numbers don't work. His numbers don't make it. Well, the reason his numbers, and then he came back and argued, well, how do they do it in Canada and several countries in Europe and Sweden or wherever, or Scotland, I guess. Wherever he said they're doing it, he said, how do they do it over there? If my numbers don't work. Well, obviously the reason the numbers don't work has to do with campaign finance corruption, where you have the pharmaceutical industry where they're making laws that stop the competition, and they run the prices way up, so they're unrealistic prices. They don't compete on the international market. If you got rid of the corruption and their stronghold over the government, you get the prices down. But you can't without campaign finance reform. Well, why didn't Hillary bring that out? If she really understands the capitalist system and how it works, apparently it's outside of her intellectual range. And one of those things I think are important for if a candidate is going to get in there and really fix the system, they have to understand, first of all, the sentence that vertical integration and horizontal diversification are very often detrimental to competition, incentive, and technological advancement. Well, how many people really believe that Hillary could take this statement and tell exactly what it means in simple terms and give examples of instances where this happens? And how many think O'Reilly? Either one of them. It's just way out of their intellectual range. And the second thing is they don't understand what crony capitalism is. They don't understand what real capitalism is. And in my opinion, I've explained it on several speeches before, but like I say, it's like the AMA makes laws that stop the competition. So like they made a law we can't go to Canada to buy drugs. They don't have any competition, so you don't have technological advancement. You aren't strong on the international market. Well, if you're strong on the international market, if you have competition, you have more incentive for technological advancement, because you have to first you got to get your prices down to match the others. If everybody's going to Canada to buy drugs, I've been over this a bunch of times. So you have to get your prices down, and then you're selling on the international market. Canada's buying them from us. Well, you want to compete with Canada's drug, and so you become even stronger in the international market with a more technologically advanced drug, and then you're even stronger than you were. And so you have several catalysts, and one is technological advancement, one was incentive for technological advancement, and the other one is realistic prices. and the more technological advancement you have, the more incentive you have. And the more incentive you have, the more technological advancement. It keeps going back and forth. It's a cycle. It's like, like I say, it's a blender. You put the blender in the middle, you have centrifugal force, and you increase your the amount of work you get done. You have acceleration going on. The centrifugal force helps you. And the same thing with this. You have other variables, other catalysts that keep increasing, generating money and bring, more exports and more money into the country. So you have, like I say, the two tallest buildings in the world, because that is representational of how much wealth the country has. And so technological advancement is the main thing, even if you don't have a raw material like oil, the way, the United Arab Emirates. But anyway, okay, that's one thing I don't think Hillary understands at all. That's one of the things. And another thing she doesn't understand is things, for example, let's see, there's things like vertical integration with farmers, where you have the meat packers. You know how a farmer has a cow and sells it, and he gets, 20 cents for a steak, essentially. He sells his cow for $500. The meat packer gets it all. Well, farmers could vertically integrate, but the meat packers' lobby would stop it and make it illegal. So what does that do? That means the farmer loses, and that means the consumer has to pay more for their meat, and that means that cuts down on consumer confidence. And if you could get the farmer to vertically integrate, you could cut down on all these things. And the farmer would have more money, and the consumers have more money. There's more competition. The more competition you have, the more money you have in the country, essentially, and the stronger your economy, as Bill Maher was pointing out with California. And the other thing, which I don't think Hillary understands any of this, and the polarization. You have a Congress that seized up because you have the trial lawyers and the environmentalists on one side, on the liberal side, and then on the right you have corporate America, and the two are pulling all of Congress, both to the periphery. They're fighting over the government like a piece of meat, so it's polarized. Well, in a corrupt democracy like we've got, but in the other kind of democracy, you have the one we had before, like in the 60s, where you didn't have campaign finance corruption. In the 50s, everyone was afraid, was shaking in their shoes, fear they weren't going to win the next election because of the vote, weren't pleasing the voter. So the voter tends to be centrist, and they tend to suck everything towards the middle, and they too compromise. Well, that's why the country's polarized. It's the corruption in it, and so it's seized up, and that's why they don't get anything done. And Hillary hasn't brought this out, doesn't understand it. Also, the trade balance. You have, like I say, the Saudis are giving campaign money, environmentalists, to stop the fracking, which means that has to do with ratio of imports and exports, because they're competing with us with oil. And so they want to keep all their wealth in their country and keep it out of ours. So they're giving, so indirectly, and the same thing that happened with the Chinese that stopped tariffs on trade. You aren't going to get a trade balance with foreign lobbyists, the campaign finance corruption. She's going to stop the campaign finance corruption. So she won't do anything about that. And let's see, vertical, what else? Oh, the next thing, she doesn't understand how trade unions help the top 50%, essentially 49% of the country, in that they stop mergers and they increase competition the same way and increase ratio of imports and exports. Trade unions actually help all these things, and antitrust law, and so on and so on. I mean, they make the corporation, that increases competition in the country, and Hillary's never brought that out, nor is she ain't going to do anything about the trade union, because you can't stop increase trade union strength without getting rid of the campaign finance corruption either, because like I say, they came in the state of Ohio with their campaign money. They don't even live in Ohio, and the Ohio populace had the 63% supported trade union, increasing trade union strength. Well, they came in there and their campaign money and shut it down. So now that's why you don't have trade unions now. It's the corruption, and she's probably not going to do anything about that. Well, Jill Stein would, and Trump I think is more apt to, but Jill Stein's the one that's really got to go on there. Okay, and then Schenck brought up a good thing about the Tesla. He was talking about how companies, dealers were going to the government and trying to stop sales of the Tesla in the U.S. And let's see, where sales of them, well, the more Teslas that are sold, the faster technology advances and the stronger we are in the international market, and also our nation's defense gets stronger. It's like with a Stinger missile, and you get it increases technological advancement, because the more Tesla sells, the sooner you're going to have another company to make a Tesla or one like it, or pretty soon you'll have, for example, a solar powered Cadillac. Well, the Japanese have always never been able to build a Cadillac, and we don't build them anymore, really. If you look at the 1960s Cadillacs, they were a lot bigger. That's the reason people bought them. They were bigger, roomier, more comfortable, rode nicer, a big car ride, so on and so on. But if you could make a solar-powered one, you wouldn't have all the environmental restrictions. You'd have more style like you did in the 60s. And the Japanese cars aren't stylish either. So you could compete on the international market that way and be selling them overseas. It's just like that one Neil Young made electric, but it burned up. But that's what I mean. You sell a lot of Teslas, pretty soon you're going to have one that doesn't burn up. Because people are going to research. Well, and that's pretty into the military too. I mean, the more research that goes on with the Tesla and these cars like it, it spreads over the military, and pretty soon you'll have a solar-powered drone. I don't even know if that's worth anything. But you get the point. I mean, the solar-powered drone go all the way around the world, wouldn't have to refuel anywhere. I don't know, maybe drones don't, but don't they run out of electricity or something? They run on something. But anyway, it has to do with, staying ahead of the other countries. And like, for example, Putin, he's still a problem. And I think it's always good to have a military that's technological advance. And Hillary, if she gets in there, she's not going to do anything about the corruption that stops the production of the Tesla or the sales of the Tesla or anything else. And also, the next thing, what Sanders didn't get. Well, Sanders got very little. I mean, the people who are voting for the binary or bus people should go out on their own and try to stop campaign finance reform or get it through on their own, and look at the candidates, be independent the way he is. And he doesn't care whether Trump gets in, because if he did, he'd run as an independent or he'd run with Jill Stein. So apparently he doesn't really care, so why should his supporters care? I've never really been I've been a little bit of a supporter. I mean, I support him, but I look at it on my own too. I supported Ross Perot. Then when he quit, I supported somebody else. But there's no reason to keep supporting Sanders and or Hillary. You got to just look at it an independent, weigh the two things. In my opinion, Hillary, it's a Trump or a Jill Stein. The next thing, well, the two things he didn't get, mainly he didn't get campaign finance reform out of Hillary, and he didn't get the TPP. I mean, they say she supports it now, but she'd voted, I don't know, 100 times for it, and all of a sudden she says she's against it. Except the problem is, if she's not, Hillary is not a salmon going upstream. The only people that tend to be salmons going upstream are the independents, and that means people like Ross Perot. That means like the descendants of the Boston Tea Party, in Massachusetts, or the Live Free or Die New Hampshirites. Hillary is not one. She's always been an establishment, and chances are she's not. Her heart and soul is not into campaign finance reform. So I doubt if she's going to do anything. And plus all the things she said that are in favor of corporate America and everything she's done for corporate America, statements she's made. She sounds like a corporate lawyer. All of her policies. So will she actually veto something like the TPP when she gets into office? I don't know if you can veto. I think you can, anything through Congress you can veto, right? The veto might be overridden, but if her heart and soul's not in it, is she going to veto it? I doubt it. I doubt it. Next thing, she's not going to, the things you need to do, you need to put people in the Supreme Court to support campaign finance reform. I doubt if she's going to do that. Give them a litmus test? I doubt it. Supreme Court candidates, is she going to perpetuate, proliferate, and promote the Wolf Pact? I doubt it. Is she going to start a Jill Stein's the one to do that. Trump might not either. But Jill Stein's the one you want there. And a constitutional amendment for campaign finance reform, trying to push it through Congress. And I'll say more about that on the Jill Stein thing, but there's a lot of things that can be done that Jill Stein's talking about doing, which are real smart. But I'll talk about them later. And the debt, there's several things we need to fix. The debt, corporate welfare. You can't stop corporate welfare without campaign finance reform. So Jill Stein's the one to vote for there. Ratio of imports and exports. Well, like I say, if she doesn't understand the capitalist system and doesn't get rid of the corruption, and will understand why we need to get rid of it and get rid of the trademarks on drugs and allow people to make non-traditional treatments and let us go to Canada to buy drugs and stop the hospital mergers and break up the hospitals, all those things, is Hillary going to do any of those things? I doubt it. Well, if you have all, it's like Warren Buffett said, the AMA is a leech on the rest of the economy. Eventually it kills the rest of the economy. It's like a tapeworm. And so this is why these things need to be done, and she's not going to do anything about that. And it has to do with racial imports and exports again, which indirectly has to do with taxes. And the TPP, I mentioned that. That ruins our tax base. If jobs go overseas, there's no one paying taxes. The debt gets bigger. She needs to tax the rich. She won't do that if she's in bed with, well, she appears to be a corporatist in all of her policies. If she's in bed with the 1%, she's not going to tax the rich. She wants her campaign money again the next time. She won. She, like I say, she rode the ass-kiss wave and won. She's going to ride the ass-kiss wave the next time and win again. The trade deals, so she's not going to tax the rich. She knows the ass-kiss wave worked. Okay, the trade deals. Campaign finance, corruption, tariffs on trade. Oh, you had to do with the Saudis, or you know that you can't get a tariff on trade without getting rid of the foreign lobbyists and the campaign money coming in from the foreign lobbyists, which I think Trump would be real good at that and understands that better than Hillary. Unnecessary war. She's the one that supported the Iraq War, which was did absolutely nothing, just made a big mess. And that's where a whole lot of our tax money goes for the wars. That's why the budget was so terrible under the Republicans. And she's more apt to start a war that's unnecessary. She obviously doesn't know what she's doing. If she supported the Iraq War, that was just stupid. I didn't support it from the very beginning. I had arguments with my family, and people didn't like me because I supported the Dixie Chicks, and people were slamming me, and people are idiots. But anyway, they found out I was the smart one. Anyway, and so was Bernie Sanders. Okay, all that's this Star of David with Trump. You tell, well, she's a corporate lawyer. She sounded like a crooked corporate lawyer, really, when she said that, because Trump didn't know what that meant, and I didn't either. Like I say, it looked like a Chinese checkerboard to me, that star. But she was trying to get people to think that Trump was. She didn't want to get the Jewish vote. And trying, so it's a deceptive, it's a way of distorting things and National Enquirizing Trump's things Trump did. Well, Trump didn't even know what anything was wrong with it. So essentially, she's lying about Trump. We had recently there was a report on CBS about the pharmaceutical industry, which had to do with, they were talking about the lack of innovation, and the same thing I was talking about, but they left out one important point I did not hear in that report. And the reason we don't have innovation has to do with the campaign finance corruption and the way they take their campaign money and they go to Congress and make laws to stop the competition. I didn't hear one word about that from CBS, because CBS is in bed with the 1%, and they're owned by the Via Communists, and ABC is owned by Disney, and they're in bed with the 1%. They want to keep that power base, that campaign finance corruption power base, so they aren't going to bring up campaign finance. Well, someone needs to fix the media. And the one, so we could hear about the campaign finance corruption more often. And the one person, and also she's apt to give YouTube to the Via Communists. If Hillary gets in there, I wouldn't put it past her. Well, Jill Stein's the one that understands the media pretty well. I don't know about Trump. I know Jill Stein does. And I've read enough on her now and heard enough. Also, there were several things that Hillary lied about. And one of them had to do, there was a bill which went through Congress. They were trying to get through Congress with campaign money, which the credit card companies, they say credit card companies are one of the biggest lobbies, and I didn't know that. They give the most campaign money. But anyway, they were trying to get it through to raise the rate where you could file bankruptcy. Lower the rate. Is that where you couldn't file it? Raise it, I think, so that fewer people could file bankruptcy. And Bill Clinton vetoed it. Well, anyway, Hillary said she supported Bill Clinton's veto at the time. Actually, she got into Congress, they said, and voted for it when they tried to ram it through a second time. So she lied, and so you can't trust her. Well, she's probably going to do the same thing with everything Sanders. She said she's going to do for Sanders. She'll do the same thing. You can't trust her. She also said that, according to Jill Stein, she lowered the minimum wage in Haiti from 60 cents to 40 cents and then claimed to support families. Well, if you're supporting families, 40 cents an hour and lowering the minimum wage, that's deceptive. It's just plain a lie. And then she was on the board of Walmart, tried to stop trade union strength and tried to stop health care for the Walmart employees. Well, that's obviously another lie. Okay, and then the other thing that's wrong with Hillary, and they were talking about Debbie, what's her name, a same progressive, was talking about the division in the Democratic Party. Well, in my opinion, there needs to be division because, like she said, it's not Republican and Democrat. It's 1% versus 99%. The independents are really the only party. And these are the salmons going upstream. These are the live free or die New Hampshirites. These are the Ross Perot's and your entrepreneurs. Yeah, your people are really smart and make a lot of money. And they tend to be salmon going upstream. That's how they made all their money. But anyway, it's like a power struggle. It's like the one that involved apartheid in South Africa, where you had two different groups, where it wasn't really racism or anything when they stopped. It had to do with power struggle, and it's a political thing. And that's what we got right here. And so the Democratic Party needs to be divided. The people that support campaign finance reform should not support Hillary and join the Democrats because that's diametrically opposed. Hillary is the 1%. With all of her policies and everything she's done, she's in bed with the 1%. That's why Disney supports her. That's why the Koch brothers support her. That's why they were trying to stop Sanders, because Hillary's right in bed with him. That's why Wall Street wouldn't give Trump any campaign money, because they know he's not right in bed with him, and they want the one that's in bed with him. So she's the 1%. That's her position, and the 99% are the Sanders supporters. So because it's a diametrically opposed deal, and it's not just differences in ideology, minor differences with liberal ideology. It's diametrically opposed. It's a power struggle, and that's why the party should be divided and stay divided. And what's the other one? I guess maybe that was it. Let's see, what else is there? And I think that's all I have on Hillary. But anyway, I hope that this gets enough people that they'll know enough about Hillary and be informed enough. And if I'm wrong on any of this stuff, they can look it up and find out. And vote for either Jill Stein. I'll do one on Jill Stein next, but if I get any hits on this, which I haven't gotten many on the last, but so I don't know. I do kind of want to complain a little bit about this media. You can get actually more hits in a small town paper of 2,000 with an editorial than I've gotten on the last three, and I've had people who basically say vote for Trump, and that's all they say with 8,000 hits. But why theirs is so much better than mine, I don't know, and it may be. But anyway, that's all I got to say.